tips to help you stay on top of life and school.
Hi guys, it's Dr. Amber Anderson. We're talking tips on scoring financial aid, nailing time management in and out of school, and tackling stress and burnout by building your support system and making the most of the resources around you. So stick with us for all the advice and insights you need to make your academic life easier and more successful.
We're
so excited.
I'm excited.
Yes. So, for all you long-time listeners, you'll be familiar with our guest. I'll just go ahead and let her introduce herself first.
Woo!
I am Robin Monroe.
She's been here before.
I have been here before. I am guest starring on the podcast today because I am going to graduate in just a few days, and I'm super excited.
And, as always, I am your host, Dr. Pam O'Neill. And with me, as always, is...
your co-host, Dr. Amber Anderson.
So, now that we've got introductions out of the way.
Yes. We originally, not emailed Robin, but interviewed Robin.
Right.
And it was one of our first podcasts.
It was.
And it was so good.
You all have really grown up.
Yes. Thank
We
you.
all have.
You too.
Yeah. And I know, Amber, you and I both listened to the podcast again. And the one thing, and I don't expect you to do this right now, Robin, but as we were talking on the way over here, I always think it's good to kind of look back and see where you've been and even where we have been and look at where we are now.
Yeah.
That's one thing about coming to the conclusion, I think, of anything is you end up doing a lot of reflecting on not just your journey through that thing, in this
Right.
case my bachelor's degree in social work, but also just kind of looking back and when things get really hairy as they do toward the end of the semester, and it seems like everything else has to happen outside of school as well. And sometimes you're like, my gosh, what am I even doing here? And and then something happens and you think, man, I dreamed about doing this. This was my
Right.
goal when I was completely hopeless and didn't think I would ever accomplish anything. I'm accomplishing more than even I would have hoped.
And here you are. And
Here
you're
I
freaking
am.
out about it.
On a podcast and everything. Yeah. Yes, I freak out. Yes.
Well,
that's true.
So when we talked, it was 2 years ago, I think? You were
Roughly,
about
yeah.
55 years old, and you just basically come back. You were studying pre-social work.
Yes.
You had a high GPA.
Yeah.
You were working at Doodah Diner, and
Yes.
let's see, you probably weren't even thinking about graduation at that point. So talk to me. What's changed?
Well, not much actually. When you say all that, other than I'm now 39 instead of 55.
Absolutely.
But,
Yeah, that's the way
Yes.
it works.
but I am still at Doodah Diner. I work on the weekends. I also work for the city of Wichita as a social work intern in the Housing and Community Services Department, which has been a remarkable experience. And I love that job. I love what their mission over there. That's been great. I still have a high GPA, but not a 4.0. I think right now it's 3.967.
It's the same thing.
I took we'll just call it.
I took college algebra.
It's the
It
same
rounds
thing.
up.
That didn't knock me out. It was Spanish that knocked me out.
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just any foreign language is
I'm-
such a commitment.
Yeah. I'm thinking I speak actually less Spanish than I did.
Or you
It's-
feel
it
less,
was-
you feel more uncomfortable about speaking Spanish
it's
now
bad.
after you've been trained.
It's bad. It's really bad. When we'd have to speak aloud, I'd be like,
Oh, please,
I know what I
please,
sound
no.
like. I sound like Peggy Hill, when on the King of the Hill when she says stuff. That's what I sounded like. So and anyway, it did knock me out of 4.0, but that's okay. It was worth
okay.
it, and it's just been a fantastic journey. And I was telling Dr. O'Neill on the way here that I am in this sort of, I don't know if it's a grief response to having been finished with the undergraduate.
Yes.
I don't know what it is, because I bought the regalia, I took it home, and when I buy something new, honey, it's out of the package, it's
Yes.
tried on,
Let's
it's
look at it.
matched with all. No, I did not take any of it out of the package, didn't look at the cords, didn't look at anything, left it in my closet untouched for several weeks. Just didn't do it. I mean,
That's interesting.
and I would think about it, and then I wouldn't do it. So I don't know if it was sort of just didn't want it to end, or not fully believing that it's really happening. Yes.
It's freaking
yes.
happening.
Yeah.
Well, because the one thing that I thought, when I was re-listening to the podcast, it's almost overwhelming, and in a good way, when I think about how far you've come.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But I know our listeners, we know your story pretty well, Robin. And in that podcast previously, you had said something about unfortunate turns in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about those unfortunate turns and what you meant by that exactly?
Right. Thank you. Yeah, and as I said, I remember saying this in the first podcast, that I would like to take all the credit for all of these bad choices and decisions that I made. Like, I don't owe that to anybody else. That was 100% me. I had every, good parents, and any opportunity really that I wanted, and they put me in charge of my life, if you can imagine. So that was a bad deal. So I ended up, I was a registered nurse, a parent, and what I had never done is the work. I had never done the work around some traumas. I had never done, and of course they didn't know. In the 70s, I was
they didn't
just
even talk
a
about
weird
it. It
kid.
wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
I was just a weird kid in the 70s. Now we know that it's ADHD. It's, on spectrum disorder. It's, they know these things. And I was well into my 50s before I knew that about myself, and therefore was able to get the proper treatment. And none of this would happen if I had not done that. It changed my life. We didn't know that. So I ended up with a pretty significant drug addiction, alcoholism, just self-medicating, as it turns out. But that led to, of course, bad choices in, men and, situations I placed myself in. And I just took a left turn when I should have stayed the course. I didn't even really need to take a right turn. I just needed to stay the course. And I was so not well mentally that I just sort of, kind of lost it. I just dropped my basket as it is. So
Self-medicated.
yes, self-medicating and doing just ridiculous. It's not a good look for me. It's not.
But you're so adorable.
Oh yes, and fun, and a great dancer.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, no.
Okay.
So I did all these things, and I ended up in long story short. I ended up in a situation where I was involved in a lot of not great things. I was involved in a car accident in 2006 that left me on life support.
Oh, no.
Shortly after that, I ended up in legal problems, which ended me in prison. And prison is not for me.
Wow.
It's not for me. It's not a thing that is a good deal at all. And so I had to.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend.
Not
it.
recommend.
Stars?
Zero
Zero
stars.
out of
would
5.
not
Okay.
would not recommend.
All right, I'll take your word for that one.
Yeah. So I just determined that I'm going to change. This has got to change.
Right.
That's not what eventually got me sober, but it did change me. Hey, you're going to change in there.
Right. I know. I remember reading or talking or whatever that you said you woke up one day in prison and no one missed you.
Yeah.
That is so sad.
Yeah, it is. It is because I'm pretty well connected. Like I said, I got
Right.
a good family. I had fallen off with them. I had lost my longtime job as a nurse. I didn't have custody of my children. I'd really truly lost everything, and it was before I even went to prison. I was in county jail, and I'd gotten arrested again, and I was laying there, and I was like, if I nobody will know, nobody will care, because I have isolated myself to the point of being not missed.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a big realization, because it's just odd that nobody even knows your situation, because you're so
far
there.
out of the loop.
Yeah, so out there. But those kind of things all pieced together make what I chose for my major and as my vocation so relevant.
Yeah.
Being able to, because those are situations and feelings that unless you have experienced them, I think it would be impossible to truly understand. It's
Identify.
like being a parent. You can't say, "Oh, I know how you feel." No,
You don't.
You just don't until you become that. And confinement is a similar situation. Until you are truly stripped of all of your freedoms and your identity, you are now a number. You are now, you really can't understand how dehumanizing that is and how it can break people. But I took it as, because I was a mess. When I tell you I was a mess, my coworkers used to call me Karen off of like Will and Grace, because I was so, and just drinking and just, I was awful. I was just a mess. And I felt like I had to go through this complete strip down of everything that made me who I pretended to be, because it wasn't me. It was a mask and a costume, and it was just everything that I was not. It took me being stripped down to bare bones to understand who I truly am, who is much better than Karen. Okay,
Like who you were faking.
Yeah. Yes. And
Why do we do that to ourselves?
I don't know. And I traveled a lot during that time for my job, and like my tagline was, make it a double for $1 more. Remember the airport bars?
Absolutely.
My God. Yeah. Yes.
It's just economical.
Do I look like I have $1? Of course I do.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I was a mess. I was just terrible. And so it took me going down to, like I say, just the bare bones and relearning who I truly am, and listening to that person, and listening to my mother's voice, and my grandmother, and all of the things that poured into me to make me who I was, that I was not before I went. And I tell people all the time, like, how did you do? I was chosen. I believe that to my soul, that I was chosen. I was chosen because I would never have done the work that I'm doing now. I would have, I would have just been a mess, I think.
You would have kept on self-medicating.
Self-medicating, or even if I had gotten treatment, I don't think I would have the perspective of, you don't have to be a bad person. You don't have to be a poor person. You don't have to be a person of color. You don't have to be any of these things to make huge mistakes and land you in prison, and or in the gutter, or as a junkie, or any of the places I've been. I was chosen to show that it can happen to anyone, and anyone can come back from it. Because if I can come back from it, anyone can. I came back from it kicking and screaming there for a little while, but that work is hard work, that looking at yourself,
so uncomfortable.
And looking at yourself and the things that you have participated in and done to make your life look like it does is rude.
The things you blocked out or denied. I think about therapy for me, and you'd think simple questions like, well, how was your childhood? I was like, oh, it was great. And then,
Yes, it was
having to unpack it and really think about things that, what it really looked like now that I'm 45, not a teenager.
Not how it's idealized in your mind and in your memories.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And then one of the things that, because I got sober with the 12 steps.
So you went to prison and then you got sober? Do they have 12 steps in prison?
They have all kinds of programs in prison. I'll leave that there. But they do have them. And one of my goals in practice, hopefully, is to make the things that are there more accessible to the people that need them in there. They kind of lord them over people instead of using them to actually rehabilitate or give people some ideas about how they can change their lives once they leave. Because the vast majority of people do get to leave prison, and so the idea is to get them ready to leave from the day they get there. That's when you start. Because obviously something's happening to get them there. I'm not saying they're guilty. I'm not saying their behavior, but there is a situation that they have put themselves in that landed them in a prison
right now.
So let's fix that. Let's fix that situation. Day one. And that's kind of my whole idea. And believe me, I have the whole idea. I have all kinds of ideas, and they're great.
Me too.
So I feel like it took me a while after I got out because I wasn't given really any tools. Losing my kids didn't do it. Losing my career didn't do it. Losing my freedom didn't do it. Losing my life didn't do it. What did it was one day I just looked at myself and I said, that's it. That's enough. That is enough. And I never drank again. And I kind of, white-knuckled it for about 6 months because I wasn't going to participate with all those
silly
people.
programs.
I just called. But I went. I did what the people that knew better than me told me to do, and I will be 8 years sober this August. So, I mean, it just seems like a dream, and the thought of using or picking up is the farthest thing from my mind. And it's because I did all that work. And I talk about the 12 steps because the 4th step is an inventory of your role in all of this mess that you made.
Oof, yikes,
and it's
uncomfortable.
difficult. It's difficult, but it is necessary for everything else to happen. And one of the good things you find out in that inventory process are a lot of the things that you're holding over yourself were not your fault. You were a child.
Yeah.
That's not your fault. And so that's too a revelation, like what you were saying.
Unpacking those internalizations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So it was the best thing that happened to me, and it was absolutely the right time. It just was.
It's funny how things happen like that.
Yeah.
Like the timing just...
that today's the day. And that was it, and that was it.
So that day, what did you do? Did you panic, cry? Who did you reach out to?
I went to work, and I went on, the idea of staying sober, there's a saying in AA, like, I would have never stopped drinking if I knew I was going to never, I would have never gotten sober if I knew it was going to last this long,
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like, if you know that that's it, that you really are going to quit forever, that's kind of not how it is. It's one day at a time. I stayed sober that day, and then I stayed sober the next day, on all of the days between until today even. And then I'm going to hope for tomorrow too. I do it 24 hours at a time, just like everybody
and it means
has to.
I'm going to quit my coping mechanism today, and that sucks. And then I'm going to do it tomorrow again too. So what else am I going to do to cope?
Well, eat.
No. It for me is also snacking.
And once you start doing the work, and I am also a binge eater, and so I've had to, apply those principles to everything that I struggle with. Eating disorders, procrastination. What are you doing? What is your part in this? Things are falling off. Your life's becoming unmanageable. Applying those principles to something that I see as a behavior that's making my life unmanageable. I just have to apply it, and then pretty soon things will get better. It's identifying that up, this isn't right. This isn't good. Before it gets out of hand and all that. So it's just learning those tools.
Do you ever have days that you're triggered and you're like, oh, it'd be really easy to cope if I had a glass of wine or
I'm gonna say
ate a cake?
No. Yeah, I was
Bought
gonna
more
say
cats.
not with alcohol or substances. That it might be with like buying a plane ticket or eating a cake or like I'm just gonna run away from home. Just get a ticket and just get on a plane and off I go.
Yeah,
that happens sometimes in my brain, but I don't do that. I have to stay here. I have to do my thing
in your day.
And then I go, that would be dumb. You can't do that. Sit still. Get your work done. What are you avoiding to make you feel like you need to get on an actual airplane and get out of here?
Oh my God, that's so true, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, and Pam and I were talking. I said, I am the queen of productive procrastination. There is never a cleaner house than when I have a paper due.
Sure. Oh, I did that yesterday.
All my plants have been repotted this final season. I am really going great guns. However, I have none of my work
Very
done.
productive in avoiding.
And nothing done. Yeah,
I
avoidance.
did that yesterday.
It's my specialty, honestly, right now. And I'm, so that's another way that my life is a little out of balance. And so I have to balance that out. And I shared with Pam that one of the ways I get my act together is to not be at my house. If I'm here or even at Starbucks or wherever,
designated.
I'm not in my house, so I can't just get up and start dusting,
Eating a cake, baking a cake.
Yeah. I should probably
Doom
figure
scrolling.
something out. This refrigerator is come on.
I'm going to pull everything out of my closet and then rearrange it.
I did that last
Oh
week.
my
it's that's what I do when I'm at home. I'm going to stay home and study. No. I'm going to stay home and find everything else to do.
Right.
So you click into your environment, your dynamic.
Absolutely.
Was that a coffee shop? It was for me.
Yeah, it has to be the right amount of activity around me that
Yeah.
I'm not invested in. So
Yes.
it's happening, but I'm not, it's not like I'm trying to watch a kid that's getting ready to run off or whatever, get into something. I'm not invested in that activity at all.
Right.
But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my earbuds in and I'm just hard at it. That's my ideal study.
And you're by yourself, but you're not by yourself.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Robin, I'm just thinking about you and being an adult learner and going through all this that some of our listeners may be identifying with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've lived the experience. You've gone from, I'm going to go ahead and say it, from nothing to almost
everything. I mean, you're in
Yeah.
articles, you're in photos everywhere.
I'm kind of a big deal.
You're kind of a big deal. Yesterday I saw your photo in the sunflower, and I told Pam, oh my God, I'm so excited. Like, I cried a little bit
I
in
know,
my
I
office.
did
It was
too.
so happy.
It's crazy. And the girl that did it did a great job.
She did.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that the adult learner office was represented
and we
and
appreciate that
the social
very much.
work department was,
Right.
because these are the places that matter to me and got me through it. And I say it like I've just come off some horrible thing. I loved every minute of it.
I know
Yeah.
you did.
I love being a student. I love the culture at Wichita State. I love being here. I mean, and I just feel good when I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's my happy place. Anywhere on this campus is my happy place. And so I it is a little bit of a grief thing that my undergraduate is over.
I felt that
Postpartum,
way.
I feel like I'm probably going to be just hanging out here quite a bit.
We
you
would
know?
love
You are
that.
more than welcome to come. I know you're going to be doing your master's, and
I
that's
am.
a lot, but our office is always open,
Yeah.
and to be part of your journey has just been an incredible part of our journey,
Yes.
you know?
Well, I can't thank you enough. You two have really been my landing spot. Like
Yeah.
when I'm running around just like, you know, hold still or I'll nail your other foot to the floor. You know, just in circles, just spinning and not knowing anything, and then just having a place to go land
Uh-huh.
where I can say anything and have. I think you two can attest to
Yes.
that, and
Same.
get it
Yeah.
off my chest or get it, get answers. I've never walked out of that office without answers to whatever question I had. Never.
Yeah.
Or solutions.
Yeah.
You remember a couple of years ago, I couldn't get my prescription.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
I was in
Why?
bad shape.
Yeah, you were, yes.
I was in
remember
bad
that
shape.
day.
I was concerned. It had been a couple of weeks since I'd been able to get my ADHD medicine.
Filled. Oh, I do remember that
Yes.
thing.
And
everybody was kind of.
It was
Yeah.
bad, and I couldn't get caught up, and it was getting like bad, like I couldn't function. And so I came in there, landed, and was just a mess. And Pam made a phone call to Student Health. Student Health made a phone call.
Yeah, Pam.
And I literally drove over and picked up my meds. It was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is how that happens. And that, I think, the support system here, in the adult learning office specifically, and generally the Wichita State, you cannot fail here. I believe that. I believe
Yeah.
that if you come here and you're open-minded,
You show
and
up.
you're willing to work, and you show up and you ask questions, even if someone doesn't know the answer, they're going to direct you to the person who does.
Yeah.
And it immediately, you're not put on a list or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been a remarkable experience. And I think for adult learners, and I'm an adultier adult learner, meaning I'm old.
An adultier. That is a quote,
Robin
a
just
one-liner.
made a word, adultier. I'm adultier than you are.
It's in some respects,
Like, really
let's
is that.
face it. I mean,
I'm
in
very
others-
adulty.
But yes, me,
Okay.
an intellectual.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that I'm since I am older, and we talked about this in the last podcast, that we use pencils, we use paper, we use books. I mean, it was a whole different
Such a
world
transformation.
the
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
time, and so, but it is these kids that I'm around all the time. They're smart, they're
Right.
driven.
Yep.
They have wonderful ideas that I couldn't think of. I don't have that.
You weren't brought up like
Yeah,
that.
we
were brought up-
can't conceptualize
No.
some of that.
Right. And it's like them having to deal with a dial telephone or
Yeah, we just live in different worlds.
I love my dial
or like a
telephone.
Yeah.
dial on a television. Or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they wouldn't begin. And so that's kind of where I come from. And then they have all this, they're tech native. They don't know any different.
Right.
And plus they just have a strong work ethic and really fantastic ideas about everything that I've seen,
Right, right.
different. And I'll go, what? Wow. I had never thought of that,
Well,
and it's really good.
I've
it
been
is,
there
but
too.
don't sell yourself short, Robin,
Well,
because I know that these kids are out there and they're in your classroom, and I call them kids. They're not kids.
They're not kids.
18 to 23 years old, and they're looking at you and thinking, how did she know that?
Yeah, it's a lived experience.
It
that,
is.
Yeah, and
And
I think that's what helps me too in my particular profession in social
Absolutely.
work is a lived experience with things not being like you thought they would be.
Right.
And understanding that people are going through that same thing right now all the time. And that's the compliment, is being an older adult learner with the lived experience, combining that skill set with these young kids that are optimistic and fresh-faced and know their stuff, and
they're quick.
and they're funny, and they're
funny.
quick, and they're smart, and that complements each other. And I think that's shown a lot on campus at Wichita State.
I do too.
Yeah.
Because we have it's so nice to look around and see so many different ages, groups, kids, and international students. And I'm the old lady that walks around, hi, because I'm just,
Hi, I'm Adulty.
Hi,
I am adult here.
yeah, I know.
If you have any questions,
I'm Adulty
feel
over
free.
here, so yeah. I feel like you need to break up with him.
Yeah.
I do a lot of
You
that.
didn't ask, but
Of course not. No, I don't wait to be asked. And so I it's just a great mix. And if you're open-minded and willing to do the work, like I said, I just don't see a way to fail here.
Right.
I know we feel the same way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. Amber,
Yes.
do you have a question you would like to ask?
Is there
Our
any
distinguished
advice or general knowledge or a joke or something Robin-y, adulty that you
Adulty
want to
and
leave
Robin-y.
with other adult learners?
I would say to, first of all, prioritize yourself.
That's so hard.
It's terrible. It's so hard, and it goes against everything that people our age have been taught. And that is specifically women our age have been
Yes.
taught.
Right.
We've been taught that to be a good parent, a good spouse,
A good friend,
housemaker, all
Good
of the things.
daughter, good sister.
And that's how by they I mean the patriarchy, keep women from achieving. And so it's up to us. It's up to you individually,
To
whatever
switch that.
whatever that looks like. And I've raised 2 grandkids, and I have a house that I clean. And I, only when my papers are due, but still, it does get done.
It gets clean.
But I feel like it has to be up to you to say, I'm doing this. I've wanted to do this always. Nobody's going to knock on your door. You have to get up and just prioritize yourself, and then there's nothing that can stop you. Honestly, if you prioritize yourself to do it, get connected with the adult learning office, or whatever college you're in, get it with the leadership there, and they will do anything to help you.
We really will.
Yeah.
They really
Yes.
will. I've seen it firsthand. I mean, I know, and I would not be here were it not for you too. Honestly.
So make the choice of yourself. Go ahead.
I would go ahead, and I appreciate that, and I'm just glad I got to be part of that journey. I 100% believe you would be doing what you're doing without myself, without Amber. But by golly, I mean,
It's cooler. It's cooler if you have us.
Be cooler if you did.
I'm just so grateful that I got to be part of this journey, because it's opened my eyes. And you get working so much and you're doing all the things, and you think, is it even making
Yes.
one little bit of difference?
Am I helping anybody?
Right, and then you see people like Robin,
Yeah.
and she
And then
says
you-
something,
yeah.
and you're going, okay.
And then I'm crying in my office.
yeah, and then we read the article in the Sunflower, and you just go,
It's just it is a great story, and
It is a great
it's
story.
like you couldn't sell it as fiction. It's just too
No.
weird,
Right.
But it is true, and it just gets better every day.
Yeah.
Better every single day. And I know that anyone can do this.
Choose
Right.
you.
Choose you.
prioritize yourself.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming back.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
It is absolutely my pleasure.
when you do your master's and when you're in the middle of a panic attack, we're going to bring you back on the podcast.
I want you to. I'll just come on here and just go,
More real life.
It's
you
a
go.
date.
And the idea, that's another thing, like the idea that I am going for a graduate degree. It is just
Never even on your
mind-blowing.
radar.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
mind-blowing.
Same
You
for
know,
me.
and
so
that's-
honored.
One more thing. Growing up in the 70s and the 80s, that was not on my radar. I don't think
No.
anybody, especially myself, I never saw myself really, even getting an undergraduate degree. Right?
It wasn't talked about in my family.
No.
At all.
No. And then you realize, okay, well, I got that undergraduate, but stop and think about that for a little bit.
It's wild.
That, yeah, look where you've been and where you are now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And relish in that moment.
It is. It's humbling, and it's surreal, but it is here, and I am going to just wring it out for all it's
Ride
worth.
it out.
Right.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love this. Like I say, I love being in this environment. And probably when I finish my master's degree, I'll find out something else to do because
Ooh, what if you teach here?
What if I teach? What if I get a doctorate? What if I go to work mowing the yard here? I don't care. I just
This
love
is
it.
your place.
And I like to mow the yard too, by the way. But anyway, if anyone's listening, I do enjoy mowing. That keeps my spicy brain making lines, and it's just a great thing. But anyway, so yeah, I just love the environment, the culture, the people.
Me too.
And I just can't imagine not being here in some capacity.
You know what? I'm glad you chose you.
Yeah.
I am too. Thank you. I really am.
Best decision you ever made.
Man, no kidding.
All right. I guess we end it there.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna cry.
Okay, bye.
We gotta leave that last little squeal in there.